Hello, welcome. I am having this conversation with myself and with you guys today in hope of finding similar people that relate and that, can align with my stories, with my being, with my soul. And in some way, we can connect and just realize that it's okay to be how we are, meaning givers. Today's topic is indeed about giving, being a giver, and I will go through what this implies and what this means for you, what this means particularly for others and society as a whole. In simple terms, if you're not a giver, you may not think of people who are givers. Why? Well, because you're a taker and you tend to take as much as possible. And research shows there may be a third type of person in the world besides the givers and takers, and that would be the matcher. These are people who match the behavior, so they give and they take, depending on their surroundings and societal influences and, whatever they feel at that moment. Basically, which type of person are you? A giver, a taker, or a matcher. A giver is a person who just loves to help others. No strings attached. Just a person who gives out of good willingness and good nature, good heart, morals perhaps, or religion as well. But normally it is something very natural. A taker on the other side is someone who just aims to take as much as possible for their own benefit. Now we have the matcher, so balancing. And probably it is something that us givers should try to strive to if we see that we are just surrounded by takers. Well, givers are other focused. So they are not self-focused. They are not self-centered. And these individuals contribute everything in their power in different measures, such as time, such as energy, such as resources, without expecting anything in return. While, for instance, takers are self-centered. These are individuals who tend to expect things in return, or just not even expect, but just prioritize their own needs and aim to get more and more and more. Normally more than what they actually contribute to the rest of us. While givers build long-term relationship through generosity, through kindness, through this, normally positive connotations or simply goodwill. Takers often use others. It may be something subconscious that they are not aware they're doing. So I'm not going to say that givers are just malicious, but they take advantage, rely a lot. I've noticed they rely a lot on others to achieve their own goals because they get so used to givers. And sometimes they obviously manipulate, right, for personal gain. For instance, this reflects everywhere, in relationships, at the workplace, in friendships, family, ordinary life, anywhere. Givers ask, how can I add value and prioritize we over me, right? And this is quite the norm for us. We don't even think in terms of me. I mean, let me correct you. If you're a giver, like me, you are going to have some moments in which you are prioritizing me, so yourself, but that me is actually equal to we, because you don't want to hurt the person, you don't want to do some damage or discomfort to others around you. So ultimately, you may end up hurting yourself without realizing, or with realizing. That's a topic for another time. But yeah, this is what happens, right? And I will continue with the explanation of takers. Takers don't ask, how can I, help others? How can I do this while not bothering others? How can I do this independently? How can I help that person now that they reveal to me they're going through some stuff, or they struggle with the task, whatever may that be? Takers just ask, what can I get? And focus on their own advancement. As I said, I don't think they do it on purpose, all of them, but there is a big difference. Givers tilt the reciprocity in the direction of giving more than they get. And I know a lot of givers. I won't include myself in this because I think becoming mature at this point because I am a giver, but I can tell you I do feel the consequence of being a giver for many years and not expecting anything in return. I mean, the true givers, for instance, I think of my brother, they don't expect anything in return. Like, they just act, know that they will be, disregarded despite them being, calm, supportive, helpful, whatever the adjective is. But they are normally givers, so they put others' needs first often, very, very often, on multiple occasions. So they just keep going even though they are hurt or they are disregarded. Well, me, I have some sort of inner battle, because if I see another giver like me not being respected or treated nicely, I get really, really defensive. But the funny thing is, I get defensive of that person, but this doesn't happen with me until I learned, obviously, how to put some boundaries in, society and social interactions. I think that's important, especially if you're someone who's shy. But yeah, it's not that I always expected something in return, absolutely not. But every time I gave, I, for one reason or the other, gave for granted eventually is going to come back to me. Some people I know refer it as karma. I don't necessarily label it, but I believe that doing good and just helping people constantly eventually brings you also the right people around you and stuff like that. So far, it hasn't happened on a long term, so I am still figuring that out. But I would say it would be better for you to be a giver and just not expect anything. At a point, it's just simpler. But yeah, there are degrees of how much you're giving, because what you don't want to do is for sure disregard yourself in the benefit of others. And what I mean by that is when you tend to forget about your own needs because you're prioritizing others constantly, that's not going to turn out well for you. Let me tell you. I've read of a lot of cases. I'm an avid reader, so I like reading. I like reading psychology. I like reading philosophy. And it does not turn out always well for you physically or mentally if you don't have some boundaries. So if we exclude the matter and we just stay with giver and taker, like be somewhere in between where you can take but also be good and give. You don't have to neglect who you are if that's your nature, right? I would call it a healthy selfish, because most of us think selfish means arrogant, means narcissist. These are very different things, especially narcissism. I used to think selfish means narcissist. How crazy is that? Narcissism is like a real, diagnosis. It's a condition or a character trait. I'm not sure about the science behind this, but it is something very different than being selfish. Especially if you're religious, I'm sure you've heard about how being selfish is a sin. But that has trained us to be in total compliance with whatever surrounds us, to the point that people that are naturally givers and naturally good, nice, perhaps too nice, they just get overwhelmed by others' requests, others' need, especially if you have some like children and you cannot balance your need. If you think about it from this perspective, if you neglect yourself, eventually people around you that you care for more than yourself are going to feel that and are also going to see that you're not okay, I think. So yeah, I'm not saying absolutely to switch from one to the other, but if you're an extreme giver or if you're an extreme taker, just think about the other's position. Are you always taking from others when you could do the task yourself, when you could be nice to the person and just thank the person for being there for you? Because so many times as givers, we just stay there. And even if we don't expect reciprocity, we still, have this very dear and loyal commitment to giving to that person for a reason. And maybe your partner, and maybe your friend, maybe a loved one, right? Or just a stranger on the street that needed help. And if you're a taker, you're going to assume that is what can normally happen, but it's not. Like, that person put an effort, even if they do it out of their goodwill. Most of the times there's an effort behind it. That's why most people nowadays, if you see people across the road, across the street, and you fall, how many people are going to come and rescue you or ask if you're okay, check on you? I don't know about like cultures specifically, but I'm talking about like where I'm from in Europe. We used to have very good manners on that, but lately it has changed a lot, and people don't, like, you would rather see people video recording the scene rather than actually helping you, actually checking on you as human to human. That says enough. And I'm not saying they're just takers. There's multiple variants of that. Social media, privacy. Everyone is just in their little bubble the whole time. But yeah, people are not givers as much as they used to be, I think. And on the other side, I was saying takers are actually tilting reciprocity in their own favor. So they aim to get as much as possible while often contributing little to nothing. Givers at the workplace are collaborative. They offer knowledge. They offer assistance to colleagues, to new colleagues, even to their seniors. Takers are competitive. They guard their time and expertise to protect their own interest. End of the day, the reputation is also something that comes in different for both personality. Givers tend to gain trust and long-term success, although they risk burnout, according to some papers. While takers can gain short-term success, but often damage relationships, developing a reputation for being selfish. So, givers sometimes become selfless givers. And this leads to what? Exhaustion, burnout, people pleasing, being taken advantage of, in simple terms. Loneliness, maybe. Also, I would say lack of self-esteem in some cases. I've noticed that myself in others. Takers risk having their reputations damaged, causing people to turn against them over time. Well, this is what the web says. I don't believe necessarily that this is a risk for takers. But yeah, let's say, I would say personally, we live in a world of takers. I don't know about you. This is not just my experience, right? Actually, the paradox that the more you give, the less you have, leaves the takers to somehow always be fine. And as I said, it's not just me. Psychologists, philosophers, and researchers have studied this dynamic quite extensively. And some people even talk about the giver's trap. For instance, these three types I told you, the givers, the takers, and the matchers, were, researched from Adam Grant. And Adam Grant also describes the matcher as the, third personality that balances well the two. But I don't think it is for everyone the case, and it's not even that common, because the people that are, like, some people are givers and they just have good boundaries, and some people are takers and then they mature and they realize, actually, I feel much better when I give. Like, my wealth, what can I do with all this wealth myself? It doesn't feel fulfilling. What I would say that the surprising finding is that givers are at both the very bottom and the very top of success. The difference is in how they give. The givers at the bottom, as I was saying before, give without boundaries. They say yes to everything. They burn out or they get exploited, right? And this is very different from the givers that are giving strategically. They're generous, right? They're good. They protect their energy and choose who receives their generosity. So I think for many years I was the first type, and now I'm learning to be the second type. Like, not just a selfless giver, because let's be honest, where is it going to lead you? And also, if you're in your 20s and you've always been a giver, you might have noticed by now the side effects, because I have. And it is, not always nice to discover this, because it means you have to work on yourself, but you can if you want to. You can just use your beautiful art of being a giver for the right people, for the right moments, and also recharge and take care of yourself as a giver, right? My dream would be a community of givers, if I can be honest. Everyone giving, everyone's so kind. But we are, beauty is in diversity. We're not all the same, and that's fine. But it is, in my own opinion, important to just recognize the two kinds and learn from each other and support each other, because at the end of the day, takers are also the ones that probably make things work faster, because they're pursuing so intensively what their aspirations are. Well, givers can get stuck, but givers actually help the takers to succeed. I think this dynamic could very much happen. Another things I would like to say is that I've always thought that the takers win in the short term. Why? Well, because I'm an observer and I am a lover of philosophy. And one philosopher in particular, and every one of you by now knows him, is the Stoic Machiavelli, who observed centuries ago that people who operated purely on self-interest often rise faster, but they also fall harder because nobody catches them. Well done, Machiavelli. I also like Nietzsche, and what he said is that selflessness is inherently noble, which is why I think many of us are subconsciously wired to be selfless. And however, sometimes goodness is a weakness dressed up as a virtue, and the true strength is choosing when to give and when to refuse. And think about it, if you're just purely a giver, it is not so straightforward to say no. Why? Because you think you're gonna hurt the other person, or you think, you're not staying congruent with your identity of a good person. In reality, that's a weakness, huh? Like, that's a weakness for yourself. Other Stoics like Marcus Aurelius or Seneca had different angles, and they had this perspective that you cannot control others, but only yourself. So that giving, the act of giving, of being kind, of being there for others, should come from your values, not from seeking approval in society or avoiding conflict. Well, modernity, in my opinion, shows us that takers tend to exploit givers, And this is predictable. Like, they get used to it because givers are always saying yes, they always forgive, they never leave, right? Especially a lot of givers I fear are like me, empathetic, but they also don't have boundaries in place to like be self-reliant. Like, so many people I've met that are scared in their 20s, in their 30s, whatever, to be alone. And they rather be exploited by people rather than, like, instead of staying alone. That's always been something sad for me because I thrive alone, but it's not for everyone. So, especially if you're an empath, you feel the other person's need. So if you say no, it feels like, oh my God, you inflict pain to someone because, yeah, you're not able to say no. So even the thought of not helping, of not giving up your own standpoint, for instance, if people ask you come out and then they insist, you don't want to feel like you're the boring one, right? But an argument I like about personal responsibility is from Jordan Peterson. You cannot help anyone from a position of inferiority or weakness. You have to put yourself in order first before you extend yourself to others. So I repeat, you have to put yourself in the order first so that you can then extend yourself to others. I mean, think about when you're on the airplane and they are showing you to put the mask in case of emergency mid-flight, right? The oxygen mask comes down. I've never experienced that, but maybe you guys know better than me. And they clearly say, put the mask yourself first and then help your neighbor, right? It's not selfish, like it's survival instinct, and it's fine because if you helped yourself, you can help the other without this crazy sacrifice or whatever. It's not just about survival, by the way. It's about being strong enough that you're giving actually means something. You're just not giving yourself to death. Or, I think if you have self-worth, my earring just fell. So I was saying, it's about, it's a gift, from someone who has taken care of themselves first. And that is generosity. If you do the opposite, right? If you give the gift before you actually, helped yourself, or when you have nothing, that is generous, but it's also self-destruction. You have no guarantees it's gonna come back. It's true. But at the same time, I don't know why we do this, to be honest. Like, in a lot of cases, it can really lead to problems on a physical level. I will go more in deep into another video, sorry. But let me just tell you, sometimes it can really go to the level of physical detriment. Like, it could be, let me say it again. Sometimes this giving, right, out of generosity brings you self-harm. Not directly, but more so you keep neglecting yourself. Even if you don't think you are, you think you're being a good person. Nobody nowadays is a good person anymore. I think that. I honestly think that that's what pushes me to also be nice out of nowhere to people, give strangers a compliment, say thank you to people. Nobody says thank you anymore nowadays. But at the same time, right, it doesn't have to be like leading to self-harm, meaning like you will notice if you're not doing okay. And as I said, I would like to talk about it in a another video to go more in depth about the physical consequences of prioritizing others' needs versus yours. But just inform yourself about psychosomatics, and you will learn a lot. Like, the body keeps the record of everything you don't do for itself. Just think about eating bad food just because friends around you are saying to you, eat, eat, eat. Maybe I have my plan, my fitness journey, my spiritual journey, my detox journey, whatever you want. Like, and because you're good and you want to make others happy, you neglect yourself. Then you're neglecting your body, your soul. If that's deeper than just a diet, you're definitely neglecting your soul. And your discipline, let me tell you, your discipline. Like, I found it so hard to learn to say no to people straight to their face. My friends, some of them just accepting, some of them just pushing me to eat whatever McDonald's, like, fast food they wanted to eat. And I was just like, no. And after I've been disrespected multiple times, I just decided that they were not worth me hanging out with them in the first place. Because why would people make it a problem that you're doing something that doesn't harm anyone else? It's just beneficial for you, and it bothers them. Those are takers then. Seneca's wisdom applies here. We suffer more in the imagination than in the reality. Like, the fear of being mean, of being selfish, for setting a boundary is almost always worse than the actual consequence. What's the worst that it can happen? Because people respect you more if you start saying no and prioritizing yourself. I'm not saying you become arrogant or narcissist, but definitely if you're a giver, think about it. Like, is my giving going beyond my wants and my needs and my desires? And the opposite for takers. Maybe stop taking so much without being grateful, or without, making sure that the person is cherished from your side as well. Because yes, like, givers give out of principles or, values they have, but once in a while it's really nice to have some reciprocity. I don't believe any of good people, like, it feels so good to receive back unexpectedly, and you're just like, wow, another nice person. This world of, I think nowadays it's called NPC, non-playing characters. But yeah, forget this jargon. Always, apply these filters. Sort of like, does this person that I'm interacting with ask about your life? Do they show up when you need them? Would they do for you somewhat what you're doing for them? Would they show up, at your worst to lift you up, just based on their value? Would they tell you, would they suggest you things if they saw you're in a low moment, in a, down moment? If the answer is no, you're not being generous, you're being used. And this doesn't apply just to friendships, to everyone, I would say. So to wrap up what we reflected on, being a giver, I think, is not a problem, but an unprotected giver, yeah, that is a problem. The world needs our empathy, your and our warmth, our willingness to listen, our beautiful traits, but it needs the whole of you, not the depletion of you, not the, weak you. Your version of giving now is ... whatever you're giving, but on your terms, with your boundaries, right? Start from a place of strength, not desperation. I'm still a giver, and I think despite these improvements, I will always be a giver. You know why? Because I don't think I can change who I am to the core. But I finally learned that the first person I need to give is to myself. And that's not the end. The end is I shouldn't be sorry about that, right? Half of you are going to be like, what the fuck? Who is even sorry about putting themselves first? The other half, who understands exactly these words I'm saying, will feel deeply aligned with this statement. You shouldn't be sorry about putting yourself first and giving to yourself first. You can be a giver, but pour your own cup and then pour the others. And that's okay. That's beautiful. But don't pour on others' cup first. You know? So I hope this resonates with a lot of givers out there. And if you're a taker and you're watching this, well, you learned what we go through, and you learned that probably it's fine to be yourself as well, but just be mindful of not using people. A lot of you out there, girls, boys, everyone, you have amazing friends next to you right now, or yesterday you had, and you just took so much that those people decided to leave. Sometimes it's even family or relationship related or work related. Let's keep it broad in general. If you have a person that gives, but you're used to it, so you don't even see it, then stop for a second, think about it, and just appreciate their presence in your life. Because probably without them, you wouldn't feel as good as you do most times if they're always there for you.